Welcome back to Arkansas Bigfoot, everybody. Glad that you're all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and eager to get out here in the woods today. Before we get started, I want to ask you one simple question. How is your matter? Might sound strange and unusual, but it relates to everything else that we're going to talk about today. I'm sure Rachel probably cringes every time I start up a new video because I never let her in on what I'm going to do or which direction I'm going to kick the ball, but without further ado, let's just get on with it. So, in the grand scheme of everything, the entire universe, your entire world, everything that you know, touch, taste, hear, smell, it's all particles of matter. And if you take all of the empty space out of that matter, it can be reduced to the size of a large green pea. And scientists have already proven that all of the matter that we are aware of in the universe came from one original source. So that means everything basically is connected. Everything ties in together. So it doesn't matter if you're on one side of the world and somebody else is on the other. Your matter is their matter. We're all the same. You can put away the stereotypes and put away all of the other innuendos of this one and that one is different and that one and this one is different because the rules don't apply anymore. Quantum entanglement has already proven that. Biggest problem is nobody believes that they were given an instruction manual or a user's guide when they were born. And actually you were. It's all locked up inside of your DNA. Generations and generations of instructions and experiences and knowings, all connected together by the same particles of matter. You just got to figure out the key to unlock the book to read the manual. And I think that's where Sasquatch has the one up on all of us because they learned how to open that book a long, long time ago.
You know, we were talking about crystals shortly ago, and it dawned on us through a reminder of one of our subs. And we knew this, but we hadn't connected that dot. But in our pineal gland, there are crystals in our brain. So their ability to mind speak, their ability to teach us, to hopefully help us remember who we are, it makes perfect sense to me, you know, in the use of that same crystalline energy.
You know, and a basic example of mother knows their child and they can feel when that child's going through something miles and miles and half the world apart. And it's the same connection that I'm talking about that ties everyone and everything in every place together. You're made up of the same particle matter that made up Saturn and Jupiter, that made up the mountains, that made up the earth, that made up the person down the street. You take away all of that empty space in between all those particles of matter, and it's the size of a grain of pea. It's overwhelming to think of it that way, but that's the truth of it.
Yep.
So when you're demonstrating understanding or compassion or love or giving to someone else, you're giving that to yourself, plain and simple. When you're displaying hate and anger and ignorance, you're displaying that to yourself. Everything is tied together and everything mirrors directly back. what one experiences, all experience.
And there is a magnification in that return of that energy in that reciprocation process. And that's why they say, you'll get it back 10 times worse than you gave it, is because it magnifies as it comes back to you.
And we were just out here a couple days ago.
This was still intact.
And the vines were all tore down.
This side was still up and that was down. And the stick had been up against the rock.
Well, tonight is the pink
moon.
supermoon.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how all of that transpires.
Am I right? Was that stick up against the rock?
Yeah, that stick was rolled up against the rock and half of this vine work was tore down. It's all back in place now.
We're keeping an eye out for Twinkle Toes because this is when he usually likes to come around and visit. Yeah. So that's mashed. That wood is just mashed. We've got a toe here. I was trying to see if that was...
Well, it's the whole trackway, or part of the whole trackway, because there's another one there about 4 foot in front of it.
Yeah. I'll get that.
Good God, that stride out there is a 5 foot space between them.
I think they intended for these to be seen. Because there's just very specifically...
So when I say Sasquatch read the user's manual a long time ago, I mean that as a matter of fact. They're fully aware of how all of that connects and integrates, how energy shifts and changes, how they can manipulate it and turn it to their advantage to cloak or uncloak or be in front of us and breathing down our neck where we can actually hear them and feel the breath and see nothing. And we've had that happen on a handful of occasions out here.
And sometimes I think, although I don't know, sometimes I think that their lack of a physical appearance, as close as they've been cloaked, is more in their understanding how man has reacted to them in times past. So I don't know if I'd call it a fear, but there's definitely a reservation in not wanting to cause, whether it's us or someone else that they have some sense of attachment to cause those people fear. I personally, I've seen some crazy looking pictures and photographs, and I personally think they're beautiful in their own right, but I'm sure their size can be overwhelming.
Well, once something is seen, it can never be unseen. You can't unknow it once you've learned it. And the overwhelmingness of their presence, I believe, would be more than several could absorb or handle.
I think just their energy alone would be a lot to absorb based on what we've learned and experienced. partial. That's the baby.
So you take two protons of the same source and shoot them out across space. Doesn't matter how far the space is. It could be 6 inches. It could be 600,000 miles. And they both react to a stimulus at the same time. When you do something to one, the other instantaneously reacts in the exact same manner because they're connected. It's the same way with everything else that is in our knowledge of what we believe our world and universe are. It's all connected.
I've forgotten the doctor's name, but he took a molecule of water and split it in half and divided it two different sides of the world, and what one half reacted to on the one side, the other half completely reacted the exact same way, being, half the world away. Fascinating.
So all this ties into how is your matter. You've heard it all your life growing up. What's the matter? What's the matter with you today? What's wrong? What's going on? Well, it's more specific. How is your matter? If you're buying in and tying in to all of the gloom and all of the doom and all of the negativity that is being pumped out by the semi-loads, then that is how your matter is going to be, and you're going to perpetuate that. Get up out of the mud. We're more than that. By a long shot, we're more than that. Because all of this is just a temporary physical existence for a spiritual being.
And I believe that things like this, with the pandemic, etc., I believe it's an opportunity to get back into our beingness instead of our doingness. Because at the end of the day, we're human beings, we're not human doings. And that's hard for a lot of us. We like to stay busy. We've been trained to be busy. From the time we were little, if you do the dishes or you do the laundry or you clean your room, you get this reward. We've been taught that if we do, there's something good on the other side of that. What we should have been taught is more of a correlation between who we are and that expression of who we are on a natural level, and getting rewarded for that instead. Hey, look, your tire's way over here now.
Oh.
It was right there.
Well, they finally moved that over. Well, the A is still there.
I don't know if they got mad because their A was messed, or their glyph was messed up. We didn't do it. No, they moved it.
Yeah, it's over here.
Okie dokie.
So in a more simplistic term, we are all just multiple fingers attached to a hand reaching out to experience. It all ties back to that same hand going back to the same central point. Some of us are going through extreme negativity. Some of us are going through the exact opposite, but all the sensations are leading back to source.
Yep.
Where you are right now is not where you want to be. Change it.
Yep.
Change your matter. Change your mind. Going back to the whole topic of the protons reacting to stimulus. Before they were acknowledged, they were just a combination of probabilities or possibilities. It was only after they were focused on that they became a real particle of matter. What you dwell on becomes your reality.
Becomes your matter.
It's no magic happy red pill. It's a very, very simple instruction in the instruction manual. You are what you think. Oh, that's a little different.
Yeah. I'm hearing what's on that hill. Traipsing.
So we're going to hang out here tonight and run the cameras and the audio and see if we can't get a little bit of sound for you and maybe something else. You can tell it's a full moon. Every month it starts in again. So put that to work for you for a day. Give it a try. Instead of buying into the gloom and the doom and the misery, make a choice. Try to be positive all day. Say yes instead of saying no, 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 no. Might be surprised. Change your matter. Alright guys, we're going to set up cameras and get prepared for this pink supermoon tonight. And we will catch you on the next leg of this. Thanks.